What's up guys, I'm Ben Hess with Epidemic, and today we're talking about how crucial a flat picture profile is and what this cookie dough has to do with it. I'll explain in a second. Let's cue the intro. You're probably wondering why I have this cookie dough and what it has to do with shooting a flat picture profile. Well, first we have to establish why you want a flat picture profile. And that's control. You want control over your dynamic range, control over your contrast, and control over your colors. And if you're shooting with a high contrast or neutral image in camera and you're blowing out your highlights or crushing your shadows, it's gonna be impossible to get that information back. But if you're shooting with a log setting, flat picture profile, or better yet, a raw image, you're able to record much more detail to really get the exact look you're going for in post-production. And this cookie dough represents a flat picture profile. See how, oh gosh. Just how I'm able to still morph the cookie into different shapes, I'm able to push grading much further in post-production. But this baked cookie is the equivalent of shooting. My mother always taught me to chew with my mouth closed, so this is kind of hard to talk at the same time. But this cookie is the equivalent of shooting with a neutral or high contrast setting in camera. And while it might look good on the back of your LCD screen, you're gonna end up losing a lot of detail in your shadows and highlights, and it's gonna be impossible to adjust that footage. Same how you can't really adjust this cookie after it's been baked. I gotta vacuum those crumbs up. One of the main benefits of shooting with a cinema camera like a Red or even the new Blackmagic cameras is the wide dynamic range. You're able to record lots of detail in both the shadows and the highlights at the same time. You can change your color temperature and ISO after you've already shot your image. Raw footage would be like having all the ingredients before even mixing the cookie dough together, such as your flour, water, eggs. You can make the exact recipe you want. Unfortunately, many DSLRs or mirrorless cameras don't have the best dynamic range. Our eyes can see just about everything in the real world, but camera sensors are limited to what they can capture. So what can you do to get a flat picture profile? For most cameras, one method would be to go to your picture settings and lower the contrast all the way, and I'd lower the saturation by about half. This isn't the best way to do it, but it is still better than the standard settings. Next, you can do a log picture style. Like for Canon, it's gonna be C-Log, but you're gonna have to look up if your camera has this or not. I know a lot of the older cameras don't, but they are starting to include this in newer cameras. And as far as other cameras such as Sony or Panasonic, some of them have log profiles already installed, or you can download them online. You can just do a quick search on YouTube with your camera model and how to get a log or flat picture profile. And I'm sure you'll find some very quick tutorials. I've been a Canon user for a long time, and there's a popular profile called CineStyle. I've used this ever since I got my first DSLR, a Canon T3i. And just for the heck of it, I put it on my EOS R to test it out as well. Alright, let's dive into some comparisons. So here we have the neutral picture profile, and then we've got our neutral picture profile, but I've lowered the contrast and saturation. Then we've got the CineStyle, and lastly, our C-Log. What's interesting is that you get more shadow detail out of the CineStyle, but you get much more dynamic range in the highlights with C-Log. And here's my Red. And here is my Red with the HDR mode, just so you can see how it compares to the EOS R. And looking at the colors, check out this arm and how oversaturated it is. Now, with a log setting, I can go back and adjust the colors exactly how I want it to be. And check out the sky and the skin tones. A ton is blown out and a ton of detail is being lost in the shadows. But with a log or the flat picture profile setting, you're able to capture much more information. And here's a few sequences that we shot at sunset time, overlooking a river and some flowers. There will be times when you can't expose everything properly. If you have a lot more highlights than you do your shadows, probably expose for the highlights. And if you have more dark areas than brighter areas, I'd expose for the shadows. Your camera LCD is not really a good representation of what you're actually filming. And there are some tools such as a histogram that can help aid in exposure, since you don't want to just rely on the back of your screen. Some cameras have more options such as false color or zebras, which are very helpful. My Red, for example, has a ton of exposing tools. And if you have an external monitor such as this small HD monitor, most of those have a lot of very helpful exposing tools, as well as just a larger screen to properly view your image better. You're gonna get a little bit of your image from the sky that might be blown out sometimes, or from a light bulb, and honestly, it's gonna be okay. No one's gonna be staring at that light bulb or the little bit of the sky and being like, oh my gosh, this guy's footage is so amateur. Obviously, try to get the most information captured, but if a small percentage of your screen is gonna be blown out, or maybe a small percentage of the screen is gonna be crushed, you're gonna be okay. And in the end, the most important thing is the story. Do you always wanna be shooting with a flat picture profile? It really just depends on the scope of the project and how much work is needed in post-production, and also the look and style of the film. In some cases, you can get away with filming in neutral picture profiles, but I'd say shooting in a flat picture profile or log picture profiles will be much more beneficial just in case you need that extra information. Test your camera and see how the footage looks with different settings. Some cameras you can really push the image far in grading, while other cameras might be better off with a little more contrasting camera. Once you start doing some heavy color grading in post-productions, some cameras can start to deteriorate and get some color banding. To recap, just remember the cookie dough example and how you can't go back and fix over or underexposed footage. When you shoot log or flat picture profiles, it's like you have the cookie dough since you're able to morph it and you have that much more information to adjust it how you like. Research your camera model, test a few different picture profiles, and see what gives you the best results. If you have any questions, just comment below, I'll answer all of them, or if you have any specific video tutorials you'd like to see done, drop those down below as well. See you guys next time. One of the main benefits of shooting with a... Hold on, I just gotta finish this bite. Whew. Okay, hold on. I need some milk. Oh my gosh, okay, so much better.